Okay, we're looking at exercise 28D. This is the first chapter of the Ecce Romani 2 book. And the book starts with the idea of relative clauses. Now, that sounds like a scary thing, but we use them every day when we say things like, this is the girl whom I love. This is the man whose son we adopted. This is the table which I bought at IKEA yesterday. Anything that is a who or a which or a that or well, those are the basics there. We use every day. A relative clause tells you a little bit more about a noun, and that noun is called its antecedent. So let's have a look at this first sentence here, 28D. All the words that you see that start with Q's are words that typically start with WH. You could sort of say the QU is the precursor to the WH in English, or well, the QU is the Latin precursor of the WH in English sometimes, because many of the Q words are W words in English. For example, Sextus is an energetic boy, puer strenuus, who runs often in the fields and in the garden. So qui is our relative pronoun here, and the entire relative, and the relative pronoun gives birth to the entire relative clause, which is basically everything that comes after this qui. It won't always be that way, that it starts here and ends at the end of the sentence, as we'll see in a second. But in this case, it is. The qui is the who here, and it tells us more about this puer, Sextus, right here. So a relative pronoun takes its gender and its number, gender meaning masculine, feminine, or neuter, and number meaning singular or plural, from its antecedent. Antecedent is a word that, of course, comes from Latin too, and it means falls before or comes before, or something like goes before. And in this case, the noun puer is the antecedent, or the noun that comes before or goes before the relative pronoun that takes its place in this little clause right here. So again, Sextus is an energetic boy who often runs in the fields and in the garden. So qui, we're going to say, the exercise asks for a translation and also a gender, number, and case of each relative pronoun. Now, I just said that it gets its gender and number from its antecedent, which in this case is the puer, but it gets its case, meaning nominative, genitive, accusative, dative, etc., from how the relative pronoun functions in its own little world, its own little clause right here. So how does that qui function in this clause? Let's see. The who, what is it doing? Is it a subject of this clause? Is it a direct object? Let's see. It starts with who runs often in the fields and in the garden, right? So the who is the one doing the running, you could say here. I mean, we know it's Sextus, who is the boy who's doing the running. But again, the qui takes the place of that. It tells you more about this boy. But in this little clause, the who is the one that is running. So it is going to be a subject of this little clause. And to differentiate that into the other cases, we'll see how a relative pronoun can be another case inside of another clause. But for right now, we're going to say that this is it's masculine and it's singular, like Sextus, right? He's a boy, he's masculine, and he's definitely singular. And in this clause, the qui is doing the action of the sentence, or therefore it is the subject of its clause, and therefore it is nominative. So we're going to say nominative, we're going to say singular, and we're going to say masculine. Let's jump down to another one to see how it can be another case. We'll go back to Sextus here in number 7. Sextus now was thinking about all the things which Titus had told yesterday. So again, our relative clause starts with the which here, and it runs to the end of this sentence. Effectively, from Sextus to rebus here is its own sentence, its own little clause. It functions independently. And then this one here is a dependent clause, but it lives in its own little world too. We have a subject here, and we have a verb, and then this is a direct object, as we'll see here. But first of all, what is the antecedent of quas? Sextus now was thinking about all the things which Titus had told yesterday. So which refers to all these things that Titus had been talking about, right? So quas takes the place of omnibus rebus, and this explains its feminine nature. So we know its gender. We look at that os and we recognize that as sort of like a first declension feminine accusative plural ending. So we're going to assume, and we can confirm that the word race, or here the form is rebus, is a feminine word. And so it takes its gender and its number from this. So rebus is plural and it's feminine, and that explains this here. But how is this pronoun functioning within its clause? Here, if we start here at the quas and go to the end, and we look at the structure of that clause, we're going to see that Titus is the subject. He's the one who had been doing the telling. And what had he told? And he had told all these things. So quas here is the direct object of this verb. Titus had told which, or Titus had told which really is the same thing as these things. Titus had told these things. So we have a direct object, we have a feminine word, and we have a plural, all taken from the antecedent rebus here. And so now you can see it's not always going to be a who, but here a which, and sometimes a whom. And if you look through these, you'll see that they function in a variety of ways. It looks like most of these are qui or quais are subjects of their own little clauses, but here we definitely have a direct object, and this one you'll find is also a direct object. And this is kind of an unfinished thing, but if it were going to be finished, this would also be a direct object. That is an accusative ending there. So hope this helps. Good luck.